Hello, my name is Charlotte, a 32-year-old woman eager to share a transformative experience that recently helped me find peace after a challenging time involving my husband and his family. This journey started a few months ago, and even as things begin to calm down, I'm still navigating the emotional aftermath. I hope that by sharing my story, I might find some healing. Rewind to 4 years ago, that's when I took a major step in my life. I married my boyfriend, Benjamin. We were introduced by mutual friends and spent 3 wonderful years together before deciding to marry. Benjamin was charismatic, always the center of attention, caring, and generous. His affluent background and successful career enabled him to lavish me with gifts and attention. Our love grew especially through our shared passion for travel. My friends often complimented Benjamin, genuinely delighted for us. Benjamin's kindness knew no bounds. I remember feeling a mix of gratitude and discomfort when he bought me a brand new laptop for my college graduation. It was an incredibly generous act, but it also highlighted our financial disparity. "Benjamin, I'm just a student," I'd say, trying to discuss finances. "I can't afford the things you do. Let's at least split some costs." But Benjamin would simply shrug it off, reassuring me that spoiling me was something he saw as normal, just as his friends did with their partners. I gradually came to accept his gestures, though I was keen to contribute in any way I could afford. Once I secured a well-paying job post-graduation, I was excited to return his generosity. We began to share expenses more equally and even considered moving in together. "You can move in with me," Benjamin suggested one day. "I inherited my grandpa's house, so there's no rent. We can split the other expenses to keep it fair." Although I had some hesitations, Benjamin convinced me that he had my best interests at heart. And so, we began a new chapter together, managing our finances fairly given our different income levels, until I had the opportunity to meet Benjamin's family, who lived quite a distance from us. As Benjamin had work obligations, I found myself hosting his family by myself. Before they arrived, Benjamin gave me a heads up about their judgmental nature, but didn't elaborate much. He simply advised me to keep smiling and not take any hurtful comments personally. With this in mind, I tried to remain optimistic about the visit. However, any hopes for a warm reception were quickly dashed when Benjamin's parents and sister arrived. From the moment they stepped in, the atmosphere was strained. They seemed annoyed, and the air was thick with tension. It wasn't long before their negative opinions about me were voiced bluntly. "So, you're the woman Benjamin's been seeing," his mother Susan remarked coldly as she surveyed the house. "I didn't expect to find you living here. Do you pay rent?" "No, Susan," I responded, trying to keep my composure despite her unsettling question. "The house is fully paid for by Benjamin, but we split all other expenses evenly." Susan was skeptical. "Just because the house is paid for doesn't mean you can freeload. This is Benjamin's house, not yours. Remember that." Her words were sharp, and the conversation that followed only grew more uncomfortable. Benjamin's sister, Kelly, wasn't much better. She hardly spoke to me, choosing instead to emphasize her marriage to a billionaire, perhaps to underscore her perceived superior status. Every attempt I made to engage her was met with dismissiveness. Throughout their visit, Benjamin offered no support. In fact, he seemed to echo his family's harsh views. His parents criticized my spending habits, particularly my purchases of makeup and skincare products, labeling them frivolous given my limited contributions to the household. Their skepticism about my financial independence was exacerbated by comments Benjamin had made suggesting that I was just a struggling student when we met, as if to imply I had been entirely dependent on him. While it's true that Benjamin financially supported me in the early stages of our relationship, his portrayal wasn't entirely accurate, and it felt like he was reinforcing their negative views. The disapproval from Benjamin's family, combined with his passive stance, made the experience incredibly disheartening. It led me to question not only my relationship with them, but also the dynamic between Benjamin and me. I was caught off guard by these remarks and reminded Benjamin that we had adjusted our financial arrangements to split the bills equally. I explained that I had always lived modestly and any luxury items I owned were gifts from him, gifts that I had often cautioned him against due to their extravagance. Yet, Benjamin defended his lavish spending, claiming that his social status necessitated such generosity. It became apparent that his acts of giving were more about maintaining a certain image than genuinely caring for me. After they left, I confronted Benjamin about the whole ordeal. Unfortunately, he dismissed it. "Don't take it to heart, Charlotte," he said casually. "They meant well. What they said wasn't serious. Relax, you're overreacting." Despite my concerns, he refused to acknowledge there was a problem. 6 months later, Benjamin proposed, and despite my reservations, I accepted in a moment of joy. We began planning our engagement party, agreeing to split the costs. By then, I was running a small business on the side, a venture that Benjamin knew about but showed little interest in, regardless of how much I was earning. To me, this business was more than just income. It was a fulfilling hobby. When it came time to organize our engagement party, I felt it was a special occasion worth a little extra celebration. Benjamin and I agreed to share the expenses equally. I even decided to cover the plane tickets for my extended family to ensure they could join us. Despite our mutual agreement, the familiar strains of criticism emerged during the celebration. "You shouldn't have splurged so much on this party, Charlotte. You're depleting Benjamin's funds before you're even married. At this rate, you'll end up with a backyard wedding," Benjamin's family jeered. They claimed that my spending habits were worse than they had imagined. Their biting words once again cast a shadow over what should have been a moment of joy. I addressed Susan directly. "Yes, the party was lavish, but Benjamin and I both agreed to it. I paid my share, and it was Benjamin's idea to invite so many guests." Benjamin had been quite enthusiastic about the scale of the party, and I hadn't opposed it, especially since he was comfortable with the expense. However, the criticisms didn't stop there. Susan accused me of manipulating Benjamin into spending beyond his means, while Kelly insinuated that she knew the sort of person I was and that I should have been more considerate. Overwhelmed by the tension, I stepped outside to the venue's lawn for a breather, only to overhear Kelly and her husband, Mason, mocking me. It felt like my engagement party was crumbling around me, with Benjamin seemingly oblivious to his family's harsh judgments. Many of his relatives even assumed I was jobless, depicting me as a dependent rather than the self-sufficient woman I was. My mom, having raised me as a single parent and knowing the intricacies of financial independence, noticed my distress. She approached me with a protective concern, urging me to rethink the engagement due to the continuous harsh comments from Benjamin's family. After the party, I confronted Benjamin about everything that had happened. He brushed it off, claiming they were just joking, and reassured me that financial issues were of no concern to him because he loved me. I stood firm, expressing my desire to contribute more significantly to our finances, including rent. Once again, he dismissed the idea. As we continued with wedding planning, the stress only mounted. Benjamin's parents did not hold back, criticizing every decision I made and accusing me of financially straining their son. The relentless scrutiny made the engagement period nearly unbearable. I explained that everyone, including my mom, was pitching in for the wedding expenses, but Susan sharply accused me of taking advantage of Benjamin, labeling me a gold digger. I tried to address these concerns directly with Arthur, Benjamin's father, assuring him, "Arthur, I'm not asking for any financial help. We are fully capable of financing the wedding ourselves." Despite my attempts to clarify, Kelly continued her sharp critiques, particularly about the cost of my wedding dress and makeup. The whole experience highlighted the stark differences between my values and Benjamin's family's expectations, forcing me to reflect deeply on our future together. Despite my careful explanation that my mother had covered many of the wedding expenses, the ceremony proceeded smoothly, but the reception was marred by relentless criticisms from Susan and Arthur. They accused me of misusing their son's finances, ignoring my attempts to clarify and defend my actions. Their determination to portray me negatively remained unwavering, but I chose silence over confrontation, refusing to let their negativity spoil our special day. A few months after the wedding, Benjamin received a significant promotion at work. He was eager to celebrate this milestone with a grand family dinner, and I was equally excited for him. To make the celebration even more special, I volunteered to pay for the entire event myself. I expressed to Benjamin how proud I was and my desire to make the evening memorable, explaining that my business was doing well and I had access to resources from a trust fund set up by my maternal grandfather. I planned the dinner with great care and attention to detail, hoping to create a perfect evening for Benjamin. However, upon their arrival, it was clear that his family was not pleased, their displeasure visible despite the positive reactions from other guests. When it came time for speeches, Susan took the floor with a commanding presence. "Thank you all for joining us to celebrate my son's promotion," she began. "He's worked hard and deserves every bit of his success. Unfortunately, it seems his luck doesn't extend to his choice in partners." The atmosphere tensed immediately as Susan's harsh words echoed through the room. "It's quite sad that he has tied himself to someone who many would label a gold digger," she continued. The discomfort I felt was immense, but I remained composed, choosing not to respond as she went on. Had he recognized her true character sooner, perhaps he wouldn't be burdened with supporting her excessive lifestyle. Her gaze swept across the room, her message clear and cutting. "It's obvious to us all that his wife's extravagance has been a drain, from their engagement to this very dinner." Despite the sharpness of her critique, I maintained my calm, understanding that reacting might only lend credence to her baseless claims. Susan concluded with a smug note, "Fortunately, we had the foresight to have Charlotte sign a prenuptial agreement. This ensures that at least some of his assets are safeguarded." She sighed, almost in relief, adding, "It's fortunate that my son chose a partner who can at least maintain the facade of being a trophy wife." To my dismay, Benjamin supported his mother's statements. "I've reached a point where I can't even spend on myself. There's nothing left," he complained, suggesting regretfully that marrying me might have been an error. This public endorsement of his mother's views was disheartening, leaving me to reflect on the future of marriage under such strained circumstances. Benjamin's harsh words took me by surprise as he unfavorably compared my actions to those he imagined another wife might exhibit in similar circumstances. Shocked and frustrated, I finally spoke up. "Do you think I'm a gold digger?" His response was cutting and harsh. "Your lifestyle is quite damaging to my bank account." Stunned yet resolute, I decided it was time to confront the accusations directly. "Since you all think I'm such a gold digger, let me show you my bank balance. Maybe that'll clear things up." I declared my financial independence to everyone present. My statement met with a mix of disbelief and silence. Amid the heated discussion, Susan pointedly accused, "Did you steal my son's money?" Benjamin, echoing his mother's suspicions, added, "She must have taken it from you." Remaining calm but firm, I responded, "I don't need to steal money from your son. Everything I have, I earned through my hard work. Moreover, I recently accessed a trust fund left by my grandfather. I had plans to use it to buy a bigger house as a surprise for Benjamin, but under these circumstances, that seems unlikely now." Despite my attempts to clarify the situation, Benjamin, seemingly oblivious to the escalating tension, suggested optimistically, "We can still buy the house. It'll be a wonderful gift." However, I was resolute. "This is not happening. Your family has insulted me for too long, and you've never once stood up for me. Instead, you've allowed these false assumptions about me using your money to persist." My frustration was clear as I stood my ground. Benjamin tried to downplay the entire situation, claiming, "You're overreacting." But this time I knew I couldn't let it slide. "No, I'm not overreacting. Everyone here knows what your family has been saying about me." The room fell quiet, the weight of the moment hanging heavily as I made it clear that the continuous lack of support and respect from Benjamin and his family was not something I could continue to tolerate. It was a defining moment that underscored the deep divides in our relationship and my unwavering stance against the unfounded accusations. At our engagement party, surrounded by a sea of guests, the accumulated weight of years of disrespect and humiliation finally became too much for me. I reached my breaking point and could no longer endure the toxic environment that had overshadowed my relationship with Benjamin. With absolute clarity and determination, I told him, I want a divorce. As Benjamin began to plead and offer explanations, my mother stepped in decisively. You've never defended my daughter. It's time she ends this toxic relationship for good, she declared, her voice firm and resolute. We left the party promptly, leaving behind a crowd of stunned attendees murmuring amongst themselves. Despite the dramatic exit, my decision was firm. I was ending the relationship. My mother's unwavering support helped close this painful chapter in my life. Immediately after the confrontation, I went straight to our shared home, gathered my belongings, and while Benjamin continued to call, I muted my phone and sought refuge at my mother's house. The very next day, I contacted my cousin, a lawyer, to begin drafting the divorce papers. With a prenuptial agreement already in place, the process was set to be straightforward, allowing me to protect my significant financial assets. However, the situation escalated when Benjamin and his family unexpectedly showed up at my mother's doorstep, demanding to speak with me. My mother, ever the pillar of strength, instructed them firmly to leave. Meanwhile, Benjamin's messages fluctuated between tearful apologies and unsettling threats, all of which I documented, preparing to seek a restraining order if necessary. Throughout this ordeal, my mother's steadfast support was my rock. Benjamin even attempted to confront me at my office, but security promptly escorted him out after I alerted them. This incident reinforced my decision to leave not only the relationship, but also my well-paying job. My thriving business meant that I no longer needed the position, and my focus shifted from accumulating wealth to seeking a peaceful and dignified life. I handed in my resignation that very day and began to move forward. A week later, I served the divorce papers to Benjamin at his workplace, only to discover he had already heard about my resignation. My former colleagues reported that he continued his attempts to reach out, sending flowers and gifts to my mother's house, but I remained resolute in my decision to start anew, supported by the strength and dignity my mother helped me reclaim. Amidst the constant return of unsolicited gifts from Benjamin, the situation escalated into ongoing harassment, prompting me to consider a fresh start elsewhere. With my mother's support, I found an ideal refuge, a house in a neighboring state that promised a peaceful sanctuary from my former life. As I awaited the finalization of my divorce, the judge presiding over our case expedited the proceedings, bolstered by a clear and robust prenuptial agreement. During the 6 months of our separation, I took time to regroup and mentally prepare for a new chapter in my life. I settled comfortably into my new home, changed my phone number to escape Benjamin's relentless attempts at contact, and began to relish the tranquility and independence that my new environment provided. Through occasional updates, I learned that Benjamin's life was unraveling. He blamed his parents for the dissolution of our marriage and suffered professionally as colleagues distanced themselves, and superiors frowned upon the negative attention he brought to his workplace. His parents exacerbated matters by spreading false rumors of infidelity, though fortunately these rumors failed to take hold. In stark contrast to Benjamin's downward spiral, my own life took a prosperous turn. I focused on expanding my business and enjoyed the liberty and opportunities that came with my newfound autonomy. I started socializing more and cautiously stepped back into the dating scene. Despite Benjamin's past actions instilling a sense of caution in me, I remained optimistic about my ability to heal and find someone who would genuinely value and cherish me. The hardships caused by Benjamin's behavior inflicted considerable pain, yet they also forged in me a newfound strength. Overcoming these challenges propelled me into a future brimming with possibilities and personal growth. I now look forward to what lies ahead. confident in my resilience and clearer than ever about what I seek in relationships and in life itself.